Hello, everyone, and welcome to JFG Tonight. I will be talking tonight, since this is our YouTube show of the week. I will be talking about why I moved to Odyssey. And a lot of people haven't moved. A lot of people think I've been in Christmas vacations. I've not been in Christmas vacations. I've been streaming on Odyssey every day for the last 4 days. So if you have missed any of my shows, you can go there at video.jfg.world. The link is in the description below. And it's where the show will move for the majority of the content. I had decided that I would come back here every week, perhaps just to keep a window on our audience that is captive to YouTube, and perhaps to just keep a status in case Odyssey goes wrong. To keep a status on YouTube, but after my experience of streaming 4 days in a row at Odyssey, there's no coming back to YouTube. If possible, I will stay at Odyssey unless Odyssey gets just as bad. It's just too pleasant. We've been talking about so much stuff. I can reconnect with my audience. So many of you, I had to refuse some of your super chats sometime because you were exploring too controversial subjects. And my show has always been about engaging honestly, but I was unable to do this increasingly on YouTube because I was less and less capable of. There was like 50% of the things that happened in the day I couldn't talk about. And now I'm burning because tonight I would like to talk, for example, about the Jack Murphy controversy. There's more coming out. He's been more than just advocating for cuckoldry in a blog post. There's now pornographic imaging of him that he published himself. So he has a past being engaged in sexual activities on camera for commercial purposes. And the activities themselves are quite interesting. I would love to talk about this, but I can't. If we were on Odyssey, I could. And this is what I've been doing for the last 4 days. And it's too good. It feels too good in terms of freedom. So even if there are defects with the platform, even if some of you it's loading, I will tell you the best way to interact with Odyssey is on a Windows desktop computer. And it's not to use a VPN if possible. But these little defects, I think they will improve. I think they will improve. And I'd rather build a platform with a slightly smaller audience, but a platform that has hope for growth. Whereas we can't have hope for growth here on YouTube. We've been neutralized. YouTube has set the game up, and today that's why I will talk about the top 10 reasons why Odyssey is better than YouTube. Before we do that, Ghislaine Maxwell verdict is in. Ghislaine Maxwell has been found guilty on 5 out of 6 counts. Conspiracy to sex traffic, blah, blah, blah. Essentially transporting, blah, 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 conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. She's been the servant of Jeff Epstein, and now she will be in jail for a long time. The Reverend says, JF, are you on Library as well? I don't understand the difference, but I can only get Library on my phone. Odyssey and Library are the same thing. Odyssey is the web front end of Library. So when you're on Odyssey, you're on Library. So on your side, you can use Library to view my videos there. Or if you are browsing on the web, you can use Odyssey to view the very same video. So it's the same thing. John Smith says, just did an online IQ test and I got 93. Is there any hope for me? I am studying for an economics degree, so that surely must account for something. With regards to Odyssey, playback is sometimes an issue. This can be solved by downloading the video. Yes, for those who still have playback issues on Odyssey despite removing the VPN, just download the video. Watch it at home. There's thankfully, if you click on the ... on Odyssey, you can download the video straight out. So you get the full listen at the speed that you want at home. Yes, definitely. So I think a lot of the problems associated with Odyssey, they will get better. I mean, it's a impressively young platform that has developed live streaming quicker than Rumble, quicker than BitChute, quicker than Gab. It's going to be now a lot of people are saying, JF, what about their TOS? It's exactly the same as YouTube. Well, first, it's not the same. You can see that there are caveat words in there that are clearly indicating that they will have a higher threshold. You know, when they're saying don't bully, they're saying don't overly bully private individuals. Well, there's a huge difference between saying we don't accept bullying and we won't say to you what's bullying, and saying do not like repeatedly abuse a private individual. The difference is a world of difference. There are millions of words that I can't use tonight that I can use on Odyssey. Tillman says, JF, is Odyssey going to be user-friendly for the cell phones? You can just use Google Chrome on your cell phone and browse through Odyssey. It works. Some people are complaining that on data there tends to be hang-ups. Unfortunately, I won't be able to solve this. We will have to wait for Odyssey to develop a little more of their transcoding. And you know, something that I've never seen video platforms do, and they should have done this years ago. Why don't they have an option that most people watch our shows audio only, especially on the phone? You don't care about my face. You don't care about the little graphics here. You could be happy with a frame refresh every 5 minutes. So why don't they develop this at Odyssey? That would be that's something that should have happened on YouTube, but for commercial reasons, it doesn't happen. The many viewers would need that. They would need an MP3 that they can watch, but YouTube cannot do this, or else their ad buys will be reduced. People will say, oh, people don't watch the video, so they don't watch the ad. So they have to refuse to respond to the audience demand. But Odyssey is not in that situation. They should benefit from this. By the way, join me on Entropy. It is my favorite platform for super chats. It is the right place to send me your super chats and questions tonight. Are you making the move to Odyssey as an audience member? I would like to know if we have people trapped in YouTube. Do you need a therapy session, a one-on-one with JF to convince you that you have to join us? Let me tell you, the show is better. I know that I'm producing better quality show there because we can talk about everything that happens on the internet. I would be burning to talk to you about what exactly Jack Murphy has done with a large plastic object. I can't, but I will be able tomorrow. So go in the description below the video. There is a link called video.jfg.world. Subscribe to this Odyssey channel. Sign in video.jfg.world. Simon Carson is asking where is the Odyssey link. It's right below the video. You have to get into the just below main website. You'll see my main website is jfg.world. You'll see 7 p.m. Eastern Time shows every day. You'll see video.jfg.world. That's what you need to click on. And I will be able to tell you exactly the movement, the nature of the movement that has occurred out of Jack Murphy's hands. Although you may not want to know. If you want to, you have the blue pill and the red pill. Would you like to know what has happened or not? Go Away sends a super chat on Entropy. He says, the worst thing is about your move to Odyssey is that I no longer feel comfortable listening to your show through my phone speaker on the bus or in the library. I don't own or plan to own headphones. Well, you should get headphones if you're going to watch non-safe stuff or controversial content in the bus, but that's not my problem. That's your problem. Get some headphones, man. You can plug this on your phone. It's giving you much better quality, by the way, than the speaker phone. The speaker phone, you won't get my voice. By the way, that's one thing I wanted to talk about. I got my last hardware piece. So right now, the voice that you hear from me is passing through a cloud lifter before getting into the preamp tube, before getting into the sonic exciter, before getting into the reverb effect of the X1222 USB, and then it gets in my computer. The difference with the cloud lifter is interesting. The difference is that I don't have to amplify a gain at the end of the chain in the software, because I used to have a 15-20 dB gain that I needed to add to Streamlabs. Now I'm at 0, because the cloud lifter takes the phantom power fed by the PreSonus Tube Pre V2, and it uses it to amplify the gain at the beginning. The advantage is that my hardware now, my audio hardware, is improving the quality of the signal on a strong signal to begin with, rather than on a weak signal that eventually gets amplified. So I'm very happy with what the cloud lifter does. It's not magical. It's really just a gain. It's a gain that is clean, and there's not much background noise, so I'm very happy. In fact, I think that in a week from now, if I do make another YouTube video, it will probably be about what is the current state of my audio setup. It's so much different than the last time. Last time, most of it was software. Now I'm fully hardware, and I'm fully happy. Wrong opinion says JF Ghislaine Maxwell was just found guilty. I did mention this already. Foxy Grandpa sends a super chat. He says, suppose there were a therapy that completely neutralized the mutational ability of cells, but it was constrained only to the somatic line. No risk of phenotypic revolution assumed. Would you support such a therapy for its cancer-curing potential? That's an interesting question. I had never thought about this. Yeah, it could be an interesting way to preserve your genes longer, in the sense that, normally a cell will accumulate maybe a few dozen mutations, and eventually one of them will turn out to be in a region of DNA that induces a cancer. If you could block this and live a little longer, or a little higher quality of life, why not? I wouldn't object to this, and if there was a way to target this therapy so that it doesn't affect the mutation of your sexual organs, I'm all for it. I think that would be decent. Some random bloke sends a super chat. He says, hey JF, since you're a scientist, could you learn coding and build an alternative platform? Ron Unz did this on his own site. I know coding very well. I'm an expert at programming. Even back in my scientific days, I was programming all of the computer games that the monkeys were playing. So I know how to do websites. I know how to do games. I know how to do virtual spaces, visual displays, live tracking of data, MySQL database, whatever. I'm an expert. I'm a higher level programmer than if you had a full university education, let's say at the undergrad level. I'm maybe at the PhD level in computer programming. So yes, I could do this, but do I want to do this? The thing is, my whole presence on the internet has always been a presence of engagement with the rest of the world. And so I need social platforms. I'm not just satisfied at being in my small corner of the web, just saying truths that essentially only my already acquired fans can hear. I like to be out there. This is why it's very sad that I've been banned from Twitter. But in the end, I see the silver lining in all this. We need to create a different world on the internet. And I've been delaying this way too much. I should have, from a long time ago, I should have started to build this alternative world, started to get onto these other platforms like Gab. Now I'm every day on Gab. I'm trying to retweet and repost and like stuff on Gab. The thing is, the Twitter, the whole mainstream social media has been taken over by interests that are totally contradictory to free engagement. They are totally re-questioning and destroying any concept of what the internet used to be about. And so I want to build another world, but I don't want this to be a private website. I want to build a social world. Because if we all go to our little domain of the internet, www.jf.com or something like this, we are all creating the Web 1.0 that we escaped when we benefited from Web 2.0. We need to build in Web 2.0. But that doesn't mean to be on the mainstream platform. By the way, we learned that Robert Malone, the man who has commentary about vaccines and COVID, has been banned from Twitter. So it's totally a total cleanup of Twitter that was initiated by the new CEO. So I'm not the only one. Robert Malone now is out of Twitter. Look, I don't know if these platforms will end up paying the price, but I'll be working for the rest of my life to make sure that the price is as big as it can be. I will be creating quality content elsewhere, dragging attention elsewhere. We're paying with our clicks here. We're maintaining this system, and I was part of it. I totally acknowledge my responsibility in this. I was on Twitter trying to get a piece of the pie, and by doing so, I was favoring the numbers of Twitter. So I have to be more ethical, and I have to follow more my principles in terms of the platforms I work on. And so that's part of the change. That's part of what leads me to abandon YouTube or quasi abandon it is essentially Twitter. It's that I realize that the regime is closing in on us. Rick Sherman-Tull says, "JF, we need to have Robert on your show on Odyssey." I would love to talk to the guy, but at the same time, he's so single subjects these days. I would love to talk to the man one day, but I don't know if he's up for this, for a human interaction. Because I think there's more to this guy than just commenting on the everyday fight about COVID or whatever. J.R.R. Tolkien sends a super chat on Entropy. Thank you so much for supporting the show. He says, "No Odyssey equals no pregnant emojis. I'm so disappointed today. Still love JFG." Yes, there is this ridiculous emoji on Odyssey. I find it unfortunate, but it represents someone who you would not expect to be pregnant. Jamie Smith sends $20. Thank you so much for supporting the show. He says, "It's more convenient if you're using YouTube. I can send super chats faster. I can listen live while driving. Odyssey is too slow at the moment, but I find the shows more interesting. I'll follow, and I hope everybody will too." Yes, there will be little cost, but as you say, the cost of the quality of the show is not something we can afford anymore. If I can't talk honestly about the things that happen every day, it's just not worth it. We're just spinning in emptiness, and we're playing the game of control that was imposed onto us. Stephen Robinson says, "Pulse X sacrifice is live, and I'm going to ape." Yes, Richard Hart has initiated the Pulse X sacrifice phase. That is an amount of money that he's saying if you send an amount of money to an address, an amount of crypto amount, he will be essentially giving Pulse X, the token Pulse X, to the people who sacrifice. The first phase of the sacrifice is starting today up to January 10. I think I'll be throwing some money at him. I'll be throwing some ETH at him and is Pulse X a very promising avenue? Yeah. That's what I think. So I'll be throwing a minimal amount of money. Because these are still risky projects. These are still projects where you can expect a payout in the future. So I wouldn't put like an amount of money that I believe, say, I need for my life. But for leisure and for just being part of the project, sure, I'll throw a little amount of ETH and see. So essentially, the Pulse6 token will be used on the exchange of the Pulse blockchain. So it will be the equivalent of Uniswap for the Pulse blockchain. The goal of Richard Hart is to develop essentially an ETH fork that cost less, because the cost for the transactions on ETH is prohibitive for people who want to trade small amount of money. It's not doable. If you're handling hundreds of thousands of dollars, you may not care to pay $100 fees. But $100 fees, if you're trying to send a dollar or $50, it doesn't make sense. So Pulse will be a parallel blockchain with low fees, and I had sacrificed a little bit of money to get some of that Pulse token, and Pulse6 will be the token used as part of the exchange. It will be what allows essentially to swap between tokens on that blockchain. Pineapple Platypotamus says, Jeff, you've been a strong influence online in how to speak the truth gently and safely and convincingly. Yes, and there will still be rules to follow on Odyssey, but the point is, it's more than rules to follow. At this point, YouTube was demonetizing me, single videos being demonetized just because I say, for example, that Avatar is a movie that makes a metaphor with Native Americans. Oh, Native Americans. Well, that falls out of our monetization policy. I mean, it's as ridiculous as this. Now, if you're at that level of speech control, I can't even produce my art in a sensical way. I can't answer the super chats. I can't tell my analysis of some piece of art. It's unviable, and you guys are suffering from this because you end up not being able to even understand what I'm doing, or you have to decode with super cognitive load. Like, what is he trying to say? Arben Sword says, why not once a week stream on both YouTube and Odyssey? Speaking of Odyssey, what do you think of 2001 Space Odyssey? I think the special effects are better than CGI effects used in the 2000s. I have hated Space Odyssey 2001 because it's a painful movie. There's no point to it. It's filmed like this super slow way where you're supposed to be, the art is super slow, like he's leaving us the time to imagine what is going on. No, I hate it. It's like people are telling me, but JF, it's about AI, and I'm like, I barely see the AI. I watched the movie, and okay, to me, it's not a movie about AI. It looks like a movie about a guy who's taking a full hour just to switch from one position to the other in a freaking spaceship. Space Odyssey is crap. It's one of the most crappy movies ever. And I can't believe that there's some sort of cult around this. To be honest, I'm starting to think I'm in some kind of parallel reality in which everyone else is seeing some other movie when they watch this, but when I watch it, I get to see the real movie, and I'm like the only one who has access to this info. I'm not down with Kubrick, as says Deadbeat Chess. I'm not down. It's not interesting. As far as having a stream both on YouTube and Odyssey, I don't mind. Of course, whenever I do a stream on YouTube, it will be copied to Odyssey. But I don't think I would multi-stream. I don't think I would do that. First, because there's visual attention. I'm a streamer who connects with the regular chat. I read what you guys are saying. So if I read what you guys are saying and there's two platforms, it kind of divides the family in a way that I don't like. So I'm not super warm at the idea of multi-stream. Unescapee says, why not BitChute? JF, it works well. Styx managed to reach 142k subs on that platform. The problem with BitChute is still no live stream. If there's no live stream, there's no interaction. If there's no interaction, then I'm just a little video producer like all the other YouTubers, and I'm just publishing 5-minute videos about quickly dropping my thoughts about this, and here's my analysis of the latest survey. It sucks. It sucks because my creation has always been an interactive creation. I'm not giving that up, and I'm happy that BitChute exists, but they've not been taking on the challenges of developing something superior as a product, superior than YouTube, not just equating YouTube or trying to equate it. Unknown Californian sends a super chat. He says, have you ever talked about the moon landing controversy ever? I talked about it. I did a full video reviewing this, but it was years ago. Maybe it was back in the public space days. And I've reviewed the claims, and it was like a 2.5-hour video. And the thing is, the claims aren't solid. There's mirrors on the moon. The mirrors are reflecting light. We put these mirrors there. So what else can I say? Chris says, JF, is it possible to watch Odyssey streams recorded, or are they only available live? No, Odyssey is like a YouTube channel. You can go watch any of my past shows. In fact, so many of the shows I had to delete from YouTube because of the monetization algorithm. They're all available on Odyssey. Stephen Robinson says, the best reason to sacrifice is that you will get in on the ground floor of a project before it goes to market. Yeah, that's the idea of entering the sacrifice phase of Richard Hart and his Pulse X. Honey says, is it YouTube's benefit to censor like they do? That's a good question. I think long term, they are losing their spirit. You know, there's a reason why Google had to buy YouTube. It's because YouTube was something innovative. And if you come in and you destroy that innovation and you keep your creators from doing their best work, you will be outcompeted. Eventually, I think it will be found not to be in their interest. So let's get started on the 10 reasons why Odyssey is better than YouTube, starting with reason 1. So YouTube, in the way it operates its control of information, and in the way it operates its recommendation algorithm, falls under the definition of a cartel. And it is a monopoly of human attention where YouTube systematically favors what they call authoritative news sources. A cartel is a form of anti-competitive market system in which certain competitors are not allowed to be as successful as the others, and therefore they compete on a non-leveled playing field. And the strategies to exclude competitors can include imposing minimum resale price, which is not what YouTube is doing, but what YouTube is doing is a form of exclusive dealing. YouTube is saying, whether they had this deal explicitly with Fox News and CNN or not, YouTube has decided 2 years ago that they would not ever redirect someone who's interested in news to someone like me. And so as a news show, I've been excluded from the competition, and this has been stated publicly by Susan Wojcicki. CEO Susan Wojcicki says YouTube will continue to push authoritative voices and reduce borderline content. YouTube's continued push toward authoritative voices has left many independent creators feeling neglected by the site. There's a reason why. If you end my show, you're going to hear the voice of Tucker Carlson 5 seconds later, systematically. It's like the algorithm doesn't even care about being that obvious. And it doesn't matter if you watch my show every night for a whole year, The algorithm will always redirect you toward what it considers to be a more leftist platform or a more safe platform. So that hurts my business, and it is criminal behavior. And for that, it's a good reason to, if you want to respect your own ethical principles, to not engage with YouTube and to try to build audiences elsewhere. Jamie Smith sends a super chat. He says, my favorite Kubrick movie is Barry Lyndon. It's an epic movie about the ascension of a lucky Irishman starting poor but ending up becoming a lord. Yeah, even that, I watched it and I don't even remember what it's about, but I remember not liking it. Honey says, is there a chance YouTube claims copyright on the YouTube streams you made and re-uploaded on Odyssey and sues Odyssey, resulting in Odyssey removing them? No, when you upload on YouTube, you do not give up your rights as a author and producer of the show. So it's YouTube does not acquire any right except the right to display on their website. So as a result of the anti-competitive practices of YouTube, we end up with the second reason why it's not a good platform to stay on. So it's not possible to grow anymore on YouTube. When I started out as a YouTuber, you just started a channel, and the more quality stuff you were doing, the more you were getting viewers and the more you were getting subscribers, and you would grow in audience. That is not the case anymore because YouTube has been sold essentially to interests that want to redirect you toward Fox News and CNN. Why they want to do this, it's a mystery to me. I mean, not so much of a mystery. It seems like there might be a lot of business interest and even marketing interest in the pharmaceutical industry, but leaving that aside, it's still what YouTube is doing. No matter the reason, the motivation, no matter the deals they have in the background, they are taking audiences away from independent creators, such that it's not possible anymore to grow. And if I'm going to be holding to a YouTube channel only for the purpose of recycling my own audience and losing them just slowly, and if in the end some people are telling me they can't even find JFG Tonight when they type JFG Tonight in the search bar, depending on the IP they're connecting with, depending on the place they're searching from, then the advantages of being on a big platform don't exist anymore. So if I'm going to be recycling my own audience, might as well do so on an alternative platform that has a chance to grow eventually. Another reason that I've discovered this week is that Odyssey has personalized interactions with its creators. 4 days ago, I started accepting super chats in cash on Odyssey, and that was the crazy experience. They deposited in my bank account on the very same night just $6 of super chat that I had received in Canadian dollar. And I was like, this is way too fast. Normally you would have platforms accumulate. And so I wrote to them and I said, you should accumulate for a whole month before you send me a payment, because you're going to pay bank fees. I'm going to pay bank fees. Why don't you hold on to any super chat I accumulate and send them to me in a month or two from now? And the guy answered, the Odyssey guy answered, and he said, we don't have this option automatically in your interface, but I can do it manually for you right now. Do you want me to do it? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So personalized, it seems that like the guy programming this whole thing is available on email and he's answering to me. In 5 years of professional YouTubing, I've never had YouTube directly address me in no circumstance, and they've never provided help even in the most dramatic moments when they were demonetizing or when they were attacking my audience, or when they were forcing me to censor my audience. never had a personalized address to me, never had answers to my question. Odyssey, I find a problem and they fix it like this. And not only this, they fix it individually for me. And on top of it, Odyssey doesn't take as much of a cut on the super chat that YouTube does. So YouTube takes a major amount of the money that comes in. So you guys are spending money into nothingness. Like you're sending me $20, oh, $5 of it disappear, or $4 or whatever. 30% is an amazing big split for an amount of money that is displayed as sent to me. Leave aside also the fact that YouTube has stolen about $4,000 from me when they attacked my main channel. They were owing me $4,000, $5,000, and they never paid it to me. On top of it, they take a huge chop of the money you send. It's just not ethical to have so much money disappear between the relationship between you guys who are sending it and me who are receiving it. So Odyssey, as far as I can see up to now, take a slice that is around 20%. And this includes a fee that Odyssey is charging for the funding of its own platform, and a fee that Stripe is charging for the credit card charge. But all of it sums up to already much less than YouTube does, and it's much more within the range of entropy. So I don't know, there seems to be different fees for different types of credit card, but I've seen fees between 15 and 20% total between the money that you send and that I receive. That's much more reasonable, and that's another reason to quit YouTube. Another reason is that I was starting to feel very uncomfortable at just the amount of control that I have to impose here on you guys. It's one thing to have your mind controlled already through a speech code that has millions of different paths and that I have to process all of this as I run the show. But it's even more painful to have to essentially train untrained people like you guys who are super chatting, and I have to tell you, oh no, this word is to be avoided, that word is to be avoided. There's none of this on Odyssey. On Odyssey, as long as you're not making egregious calls for terrible things, you're going to be fine. And so that is another reason why we have to leave YouTube. There also has been, Natasha says, Stripe, oh dear, Odyssey is working with them. Yes, Stripe has been a problem in the past, so it's not like it's all paradise at Odyssey. Stripe has had issues in the past, and they've been going after certain creators. However, I've been on Patreon for 5 years, and I've never had trouble with them. So it's not that it's certainly going to work, and I don't know if Stripe eventually will start being the target of requests by leftist group to remove specific Odyssey people. But still, even if that was the case, we still have in Odyssey a platform where super chats can be sent through cryptocurrency. So even if Stripe was to be disabled, there's no evidence yet that Odyssey will themselves decide to kick a creator and decide to disable the crypto part of the super chats rather than just disabling the Stripe part. But in any case, up to now, I've not had issues with Stripe, and I've been surviving on Patreon, so it's definitely a higher threshold than the one we have with YouTube monetization, who have been demonetizing people for just for not providing enough videos that were monetizable. So you end up in a vicious circle where the algorithm demonetizes your videos, and now you have to produce more monetized videos, or else you're going to reach 50% demonetized video, and then they're going to disable everything from your channel. The problem here is that YouTube justifies its monetization policy based on the interests of advertisers, and yet they also disable the super chat part when the super chat when that becomes a problem. Why do you have to disable the super chat part if you think that it's just an issue with advertisers? Natasha says, well, but then again, Red Ice has been receiving super chats for months now, so it might go well. Exactly. So there is a demonstration, and I've seen on Millennial Woes, he has more than 6,000 followers on his channel, and a big part of my decision to switch to Odyssey has been this experience going on Millennial Woes and seeing about 350 viewers live. I'm like, oh, this is already better than what I can do on YouTube, so that's why I'm making the move. Another move that was done by YouTube that causes issues is how aggressive they have been on the question of the interest of the pharmaceutical industry. I think there's barely any other social media platform that I know of that has been as aggressive as YouTube in pursuing a censorship of the scientific discussion around COVID. And this is a problem for someone like me who wants to provide the whole edge that my show provides with respect to competitors and alternative is precisely that I can engage honestly about current scientific developments. But YouTube has enacted policies that make the scientific conversation impossible to be had. The debate just cannot happen here. And all of it appears to be at the service of companies that have something to sell. And that's an ethical problem. Go Away says, Dr. Robert Malone banned from Twitter. Yes, I talked about it earlier in the show. Hope you get the chance to cover his thoughts on your Odyssey stream soon. I will. I've been already talking about his stuff, and I think he's a very interesting voice that has developed in this crisis, this time of crisis. Honey says, is there a chance YouTube... Oh, this one I read. All right. Now, another aspect that has made competition untenable on YouTube is the double standard that is applied to the monetization system. One of the most depressing things I've been faced with in my YouTube career is to see that me making a video about a given subject, not using edgy words, not pushing the limits, not doing anything provocative, and I would see a video of Timcast on the same subject. Mine would be demonetized. Timcast would be monetized with ads. In fact, there are videos of Tim Pool talking literally about civil war. Fully monetized. He's just, it's about to happen, blah, blah. I actually never talk about civil war on this show. And yet I would see that in covering the same subject, and he goes much further than me, he still is monetized, I'm not. So I have to constantly self-censor, and it's not working. And that ultimately boils down to the fact that YouTube has entrusted its artificial intelligence to be implementing a racist decision-making system that punishes me for who I am, and if someone of another group says the same thing, he's not getting punished. That is another reason why to leave YouTube. All right, and reason 7, I've already covered it in the question of cartels, but reason 7 is the YouTube algorithm favors authoritative news sources. I've already said how Susan Wojcicki has been open about this publicly. And now we enter a more recent decision by YouTube, and that's one thing I discovered streaming for 4 days on Odyssey. YouTube has been removing the dislikes. And what I realized on Odyssey is the dislike is an essential tool for creators and for audiences. I like to, having 0 dislike or having the dislike button hidden or the count hidden, that is not interesting to me. I not only want to have this feedback to know that, if I see a video on Odyssey where there's like 12 dislikes and 100 likes, this tells me, okay, there's a small portion of the audience that's not super enthusiastic about this, although most of the audience still likes it. Maybe I've been shriveling some feathers, maybe I've been provocative to them. It's okay, but I like to get the feedback. I want to know, this is how I get to know my audience. Now you might say, well, JF, the dislike is still available, the count is available in the background on YouTube. But that's not as good because I cannot know whether people still use the dislike button as much if the count is not there public. And it's also the right of the audience to know whether whether someone has disliked the video. So it's a tool that I have lost, and I've lost it for what? Just because some other users of YouTube cannot handle that the internet doesn't like them. Like corporate users and corporate entities that are making woke ads and White House channels, all of this. So I'm losing my functionality because these people can't handle the internet. And finally, we are entering in the reasons that where Odyssey shines as being a better choice. Odyssey simply is a better choice because, people have been criticizing, okay, the super chats come from Stripe. But Odyssey has a parallel super chat system also based on cryptocurrency. Basically, it would have to be a central decision by the Odyssey guy to stop that system for you. So even if Stripe was to abandon, you can still get paid in LBC, and you can still get paid through parallel means like Patreon, Subscribe Star, that kind of stuff. So that appears to me as a solid foundation with parallel solutions built in. So being on a parallel platform with parallel systems that can take up when something else fails, that's a good thing. And to be on a blockchain where everything is public, I think it forces, and a lot of the code is open source, I think it will, in the long run, the Odyssey people will understand that if they mess up their job, if they are not true to their commitment to provide a viable platform, they will get punished by some competitor who can take their open source software and eventually host it elsewhere. Some random bloke sends a super chat. He says, dislike counter can easily be seen through extensions. Yeah, but it's not as good because I don't know if people still engage with that button as much. I want the dislike counter to play the role that it plays, which is a public display of shame and of dislike. And as long as you have to download extensions to see it, that is not viable. Jamie Smith sends a super chat. He says, dislikes count was a great tool to distinguish fake news. That's the whole point. They removed it to make it easier to manipulate us. I agree. There's something deceptive about what's being done here. Like, you're showing me a thumbs up count without showing me the thumbs down. So I have to have a complex equation in my head that says, is that the number of thumbs up I would expect based on that number of views? No, well then that means it's disliked. Nick Tobin says, are you doing a lot on Odyssey these days, JF? Are we going to experience raw uncensored JF again? Raw uncensored JF has been performing on Odyssey for the last 4 days, and raw uncensored JF comes back to Odyssey tomorrow. People can't believe how the difference. I can't believe it. I mean, there are moments in the shows where I'm like, wait a minute, I can use this word. I can't believe that at 37 years old, I have a PhD. I'm like a legend of the internet, and I'm taking pleasure at recovering the use of words. This is just how much oppression we've been going through. It's like, I cannot believe that I'm almost crying because I can use a word. That's just how happy I am. So yes, it's a very different show, and we might try to get guests. I still have no plans for guests, but it was a fun time when we were doing guests, and maybe we'll try to go back to some amount of them. All right. Then the last reason why ultimately Odyssey is the way to go for the future, and I have difficulty believing that this competitive edge that they have created, that this will not result in eventually them becoming a major platform, if not outcompete YouTube eventually. And it's simply that Odyssey does exactly what led to the original success of YouTube. So, if YouTube has been developing so much success, why wouldn't the platform that now does exactly what led to that success, when in fact the YouTube has abandoned those principles, why wouldn't it be more successful than YouTube? I think that in time, this is what we should see, unless something goes wrong. And if something goes wrong, we can go to another platform. But for now, the best choice is Odyssey, and this is where I'll be streaming for the foreseeable future. Durdurius says, so now if I use a console instead of a computer, I cannot live stream JF. Well, I guess your console must have some kind of Google Chrome equivalent, so why don't you browse to Odyssey and try to stream JF? End of the line Joel says, JF, do you fear YouTube punishing you for making reputationally damaging content elsewhere? It seems like they care about content creators' off-site reputation too. Well, I hope that you understand based on what I've said tonight. And I don't know that there are rules against reputationally damaging content. And here, what I'm doing tonight is a review as a user of the platform. So, and it's a total classic style of video on YouTube. Someone gives the top 10 reasons why something is better than something else. Anyways, I don't care anymore. Tonight, I am telling you, I'll be on the Odyssey, and this will be my creative path going forward. So, if that leads to me losing a channel here, I don't care. Although I think it would be an unfair outcome because I don't know. Reputationally damaging content. I don't think it's part of the guidelines. I've never seen this term. No, see, there's nothing that keeps you uh, from commenting on YouTube. In fact, it would be an anti-competitive move for YouTube to punish me for having an opinion. So no, if anything, I feel that this video is safer than many other videos I've made in my career. Unknown Californian says, first guest should be the juggernaut Mike. The money will flow. Okay, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe. Go Away says, how will the pipeline of YouTube to Odyssey work? I have young cousins around age 10 and they are on YouTube all the time. When and how would they make the switch? That remains to be determined, but no one is asking whether there was a 4chan pipeline ever, and yet 4chan has risen. So you don't need to have a pipeline necessarily. The fact is, people naturally communicate between one another, they recommend stuff to one another, they eventually learn about things, and if it's pleasant there, they stay there. It's as simple as this. That's the internet in a nutshell. Deadbeat says, should we end our YouTube memberships? JF, does Odyssey have an equivalent service? They don't have an equivalent service. So if you want to keep your YouTube membership, you can. But never forget that I'll be here less often, and this means potentially you will get to use your green username less often. But I'm still getting the money, so it's fine. And it's a way to support me. But if you want to switch to an equivalent system, there's an equivalent on Patreon, Subscribestar, but you won't get your green username. Keith Wood says, don't forget to edit your description to add an Odyssey link. There is already an Odyssey link. It's my main link, video.jfg.world. It's already in there. I can put it more at the top of the description. Subscribe to my Odyssey channel. Here. There you go. Keith Woods is in the chat. We are brothers in Twitter oppression. How are you doing, Keith Woods? We have been targeted, although we have a very different position on idealism. This leads me to believe that this new Twitter CEO does not care about idealism, because if he cared about idealism, the whole idealism debate, he would have either banned Keith Woods or he would have banned me, but he wouldn't have banned the both of us. To me, it indicates that this new CEO is insensitive to the idealism question. The chairman says Jeff can always launch a black screen live feed on YouTube that just mentions to click the Odyssey link so people that come here know to go to Odyssey. No, I can't do that because that is redirecting to an external website intentionally, and that is considered a spam practice. So I would eventually get banned if I was to do this. Bird Flu says, I'll have to go back and watch the library episodes I missed over the past few days. Thought JF was taking it easy till the new year. Hey, yes, JF does not take vacation. You assumed I was taking vacations and you were wrong. CDC, this is one thing that I've been talking about in my I've been talking about on my Odyssey shows, and it's the kind of stuff, the kind of CDC rules that I would have been hesitant on YouTube to cover this, but it's important. So CDC has changed the rules so that essentially the unvaccinated are treated just like the people who had J&J for more than 2 months, or the people who had Pfizer and Moderna for more than 6 months. The amount of time where protection is assumed to be efficient is reducing. And that's the kind of interesting thing I've been commenting on in the last 4 days, that if I was still a full-time on YouTube, I don't know if I would have been able to talk about this news item. Keith Wood says, Jeff, I don't know if you're aware, but I think Odyssey... okay, but I don't care about this individual... So, I don't care. Doesn't concern me, doesn't matter to me. YouTube user says, didn't JF say Odyssey was paying him $1 more than what he should get? No, because I was saying that I received 5 USD, so that amounts to about 6 Canadian dollars. I was not suggesting that I was getting more than I should. I was just saying I got the money extremely quick. I got the money too quick. And they were kind enough to do an individualized setting for me, where they will be gathering my super chat and sending them at the end of the month. Because if I get like one payment a day in my bank account, I'm afraid that I will be paying fees, because there will be too much transactions, and there will be very small transactions. Pineapple says, JF, can I recommend not burning the YouTube bridge and leaving its availability for you to use in the future for whatever you may want? I'll switch to Odyssey too, but keep your channel here. Yeah, that's what I intend to do. You know, for example, I wanted to do a show on my old audio setting, and how do you get good audio? Because look, I can now control whether I'm redirecting the effect. So here's my voice with the sonic exciter, and here's my voice without the sonic exciter. Here's my voice with the sonic exciter, and here's my voice without the sonic exciter. So I wanted to do a video reviewing all of these parts and how they work, and demonstrating what's the difference if I speak in one. That's the kind of videos I could still come back to YouTube to do. Keith Wood says, just bringing it up because it shows a commitment to promoting alternative creators. For instance, they use their Twitter to promote a debate with Mark, our friend. All right, well, yeah, I mean, they look like they have a TOS so that they can argue that they are equal to YouTube in terms of oppression of speech, but in terms of their action, they haven't shown that they were willing to be as aggressive as YouTube. So their displayed behavior seems good. Their displayed behavior seems to be better than the TOS says. George says, Keith, how did you get the last 2 years so wrong, though? Ouch! Keith is getting attacked on my regular chat. What is the error, George? What is it that you reproach to Keith? What did he get wrong in the last 2 years? J.R.R. Tolkien sends a super chat on entropy. He says, when you navigate to Odyssey, at the top of it, it says, welcome to a universe of weird videos. Exactly the energy that made the old internet so much fun. These guys get it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's where we have to be at it, because this will be the successful approach going forward. to all the mods, Québécois Foie Gras, White Pill Pro, I hope you've been on Odyssey. I don't know if all of you, I know that Nicolas Petris, I've modded you. Hopefully, if you can be there tomorrow, so I can ensure that everyone is modded, or whenever you can, and send me a DM on Discord to make sure that I'm modding the right channels. Did George answer to my question? George says, Keith, okay. He says the whole lot. He's just ego-driven and can't accept that he was wrong. Yeah, but on what was he wrong? I mean, I'm not even challenging you. I do remember that Keith was wrong about certain things, including idealism. But I'm just wondering, what was he wrong about? I want to be reminded. Mama JF is coming in. What is up, Mama JF?
Hi. Me, one thing I like about YouTube is that they remember everything I watch and they do recommendation.
Yes, but what happens when my show ends and I step out of the studio?
No, I know, but this
No,
they change.
but tell them
Yes,
what happens.
always Tucker.
Tucker Carlson starts speaking. It's like,
But now they change it. But before it was like other people like Euler.
yeah, they used
But
to.
how did they do this? Do they have special knowledge about AI?
Well, Google has always had the superior AI. That's how they outcompeted everyone on the internet.
Is it hard to do an algorithm like this?
It seems to be hard because none of the alternative platforms end up doing it correctly. Like the terrible search option of BitChute is one example. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, and it demands computing power, and it demands kind of an omnipresence on the internet that really only Google got to. But yeah, I mean, it's so insulting because you would think that the algorithm of Google should be intelligent enough to understand that Mama JF is my wife. I'm having sex with this person, on an everyday basis. And the minimal thing that you would do is to add Papa JF on every recommended video for Mama JF, such that when she's finished listening to tonight's show, there should be another JF voice starting from a past video or something. But no, they cuck me with Tucker Carlson. They do it every night. It's like they're adding insult to the injury. Unknown Californian sends a super chat on Entropy. Thank you so much for supporting the show. He says, I use an old PC hooked up to my TV to stream Odyssey. Who doesn't have an old PC lying around to use for this purpose? Yeah, exactly. You can totally do this. It's true. Go Away says, how will the Oh, so that's it. I've started a debate on the regular chat. Is it optimal to get rid of your sperm every day, or do you have to preserve it a couple of days as your life force? I was talking in metaphors. I was not even saying physically. Go Away says, how will the pipeline of YouTube to Odyssey work? I have young cousin. Okay, this one I read. He says, I think I am gluten intolerant. How is this possible? Haven't we, Europeans, evolved over thousands of years to consume gluten? How would someone like me survive as a peasant in the Middle Ages? Well, yes, we may have evolved to a certain extent, but that doesn't mean everyone will. I mean, I'm from a totally European family, and I have cousins that have gluten intolerance. So evolution cannot always be perfect, it's like asking, why are some people still born blind? Haven't we evolved to be seeing stuff? Well, yes, we've evolved, but evolution is an imperfect force, and especially if you have something that affects one person out of 1,000 or one person out of 1,000,000, uh, it's not a counter to evolution. Evolution is still going on, but evolution sometimes misfires. So, Robert Malone suspended from Twitter. That was in the news today. Illinois breaks record for population loss. People are escaping Illinois in particular. People are going to live in other states. Omicron has a lower hospitalization rate, epidemiologists confirm. We are seeing exponential increases in cases and a much lower increase in hospitalization and death, said Albert Coe, chair of the Department of Epidemiology and Microbial Disease at the Yale School of Public Health. That's what I expect. I think Omicron will be very weak compared to the other waves. Vaccine mandate for domestic flights is not being considered, says CDC director after Fauci's proposal. Certainly, domestic flights has been a topic of conversation, but that is not something we're revisiting right now. Okay, they want attack interstate travel. Excellent. And so that is it for the news tonight. To anyone who would be hesitant to join us on Odyssey, let me tell you that the majority of the crowd has already transferred. We make like 300 or 400 less views than we would on YouTube. At YouTube, I'm at like 2K, and at Odyssey, I'm at like 1.5K on average. So if you're part of those who have been hesitant or who didn't know, let me tell you that the Odyssey shows have been freaking hilarious. And it's amazing to be recovering freedom of speech, to not have to control every word and pass them through the monetization guidelines in my head. The internet has been reborn. It has been born again, and it's at Odyssey right now. So click on the link below the video, follow the channel there, sign in to Odyssey. I get rewards for just having watchers of my show that are signed in. So sign in, and I'm making money in cryptocurrencies from it. And appreciate the liberty. I'll have to oppress you much less there. That doesn't mean there won't be rules. I did ban some people yesterday, but you will benefit from so much more freedom, and the show will go on, and in fact we may become more interesting than ever. That is it for tonight. Are you making the move to Odyssey as an audience member? 10 people say yes, 2 people say not sure, 1 person says no. Well, if you're the 1 person who said no, I highly recommend you do this move. It's not just for me in the end. It's that if someone like me who's been willing to respect the rules, to do all the efforts, if someone like me has gotten to the point where it's unbearable, then I expect that most of the creators that are not favored by this algorithm and that are being targeted and that are trying to be intelligent under these rules, most of them will eventually reach that conclusion too. So eventually that's the only place where you'll be getting content. Much love, and see you all tomorrow on Odyssey.